You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
Welcome to the Hot Options Report, your premier source for insight into the fast-moving options market. Each day, we'll track down the products that are dominating the options chains and impacting your trading account, from Nvidia to VIX and everything in between. If it's lighting up the options tape, then you'll find it on the Hot Options Report.
All right, everybody, that music means we are back. Time to kick off your broadcast week here with a little bit of the Hot Options Report for Monday, October 13th, Monday the 13th. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the network upon which all of you folks are binging out there. Reminding you at the top of the show, make sure you subscribe to the network wherever you find your favorite podcast. You're missing out on a lot of other shows if you're not. And of course, if you want to join us for giveaways, exclusive shows, early access to other content, live streams, all sorts of fun, a fantasy football league, you name it, theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go. Now, if you're listening to this show, chances are that you're pretty serious about options trading. So let me put something on your radar. Public. It's the most cost-effective way to trade options. That's because Public is the only platform that gives you rebates on your options trades. They also have some of the industry's lowest index options fees, whether you're placing single leg or complex multi-leg trades. Every dollar counts. Check out public.com/optionsbrief and discover the most cost-effective way to trade options. Again, the Hot Options Report brought to you by Public. Full disclosures in the podcast description. All right, let's get down to business here for our Monday, October 13th. You might have thought last Friday was Friday the 13th, the way we got off to such a resounding sell-off in the latter portion of the session out there. So no, last Friday wasn't Friday the 13th. We are now Monday the 13th, and looks like a lot more green on the screen today, listeners. Most of the major indices closing firmly in the green out there. And our old pal VIX Cash taking a bit of a back seat today, giving up, it's over 2.5 points actually, closing right around the 19 level, 1903 to be precise. Putting up 1.31 million contracts out there in VIX land today against an ADV of just 729,000. So a pretty active day out there. And the hot option out there, almost exactly 200,000, 199,000 of the November 35 calls. Average price for these, about 84 cents. We did a little dig and looks like that was a bit of a roll from the OCT 35s to the NOV 35s. But just straight up, NOV 35s for 84 cents. Do you like those or you're not a fan? We put that out to our audience today. And right now, listeners, 54.5% of you want to sell those. 31.8% want to buy them. And 13.6% say no 35s, WTF. I could certainly get behind all those sentiments out there right now. So get over there at Options if you're not following us yet, listeners. And you too can vote in our flash polls and our questions of the week, as well as see all the other content we have coming out throughout the day as we keep on rolling out to SPY. Was it a hot day in SPY? The answer was almost. About 8.25 million contracts. That's actually a little bit light of the ADV, which is 8.75 million. So an explosive up day, not bringing the heat volume-wise like the big down day on Friday. The hot option out there in SPY today, 452,000 of the 663 calls, listeners. Average price for these, about 90 cents. SPY closing almost exactly 663, 663.04 to be precise. So you know the deal. If you rode these through the close, probably not a great shape. But then again, you had multiple opportunities intraday to get rid of these if you were long them. So maybe be quicker on the trigger finger next time as we keep on rolling. Out to the S. The S also popping about 1.5% today. Again, coming in slightly light of expectations. 4.05 million against an ADV of about 4.3 million. The S closing 66.54 and about 3/4. The hot option out there, 122,000 listeners of the 66.60s. So an interesting strike out there. Average price for these, $4.71. So they certainly were not giving them away. Closing a wee bit shy of that strike, obviously, but same deal as with SPY. You had opportunities intraday when we were a little bit higher to potentially get rid of those for, at the very least, a more attractive level than where they went out. As we keep on rolling out to small caps. Small caps popping hard, nearly 3%, 2.75%, closing 244.37. Putting up, again, somewhat light volume, about 1.25 million contracts against an ADV of 1.65 million. And the hot option out there, once again, going out to November expiration, it was 86,000 of the 230 puts. Again, IWM closing a little bit north of 244, so decently out of the money puts. Average price for these, $2.88. Do you like those, listeners, or would you prefer to say sold to you on those? Either way, interesting stuff out there as we keep on rolling out to the land of the Qs, listeners. The Qs also having a good day out there today, popping a little over 2, about 2.13%, closing a couple of cents north of 602. And again, coming in pretty much right in line with expectations, 4.53 million against an ADV of 4.47 million. So pretty much right in line. And the hot option out there in the Qs today, 203,000 of the 602 calls expiring today. So would you look at that? Right at the strike. Average price for these, though, 85 cents. So if you were long these, you had to get rid of them earlier in the session if you wanted to get a little bit better level, listeners, as we keep on rolling out to the top 10. Was it a hot day in single name equity option land? The answer was not really. 507,000 contracts is all it cost you to break into the top 10. That got you to our old friend. Haven't talked about them in quite some time. This is Beyond Meat. Looking kind of beyond the pale today, selling off 50% almost. Closing a little bit north of $1 today, listeners. So just an absolute drubbing out there. And the hot option out there, there's some weird flow out there. There's a lot of conversion reversals out there, but the bias was on the October 1 calls. More of these going up than the puts. So there could have been some folks taking a bit of a flyer. They went up for prices anywhere from 13 to 16 cents. So up to you whether a 1 week call in a $1 stock is worth effectively a 13 to 16% outlay. You really need the stock to turn around in a hurry to pay those boys off if you are indeed buying them. Or maybe you prefer to say the stock itself is the option at $1 and you buy the forever call for $1. Or maybe you just don't want to touch Beyond Meat. Might be a fun little question of the week for our audience as we keep on rolling. To number 9, it's our old friend Palantir, putting up light numbers today, only 538,000 contracts. Palantir ended up closing up about 1% or nearly $2, 177 and about a third. And the hot option out there in Palantir today, 31,000 of the 180 calls expiring on Friday. Average price for these, about $3. So they need Palantir to get in gear throughout the rest of the week and keep a nice upward trajectory heading into Friday, or at least early enough where you can get these off for a decent price. As we keep on rolling to number 8, AVGO, aka Broadcom, aka the latest name to get in bed with OpenAI. OpenAI cutting deals with everybody and lifting pretty much the entire tech space as a result. AVGO, the latest to get the blessing, the pixie dust from OpenAI, putting up 556,000 contracts today, popping over 32 handles or nearly 10%, closing 356.70 today. The hot option out there, 23,000 of the pars, the 400s. Now, before you say that's insane, we did get a little bit higher intraday, right around 359 and about a third. So probably not high enough to make those pars look attractive, but nonetheless, they traded for an average price of 55 cents. So they weren't exactly giving them away. 400 by the end of the week, listeners. In the past, you've seen paper come in to fade a lot of these near-term pops from OpenAI. So maybe we'll see a bit of a retracement, or maybe you like those. Either way, 55 cents for the OCPARs expiring on Friday in AVGO as we keep on rolling to number 7, listeners. It's our old pal Mara putting up 609,000 contracts. Been a very active name of late. Closing today up another $1.60 or about 8.5%. Closing right around 20 and a quarter today. If you've been following Mara, you know it's kind of been vacillating in the 16 to 17.5 range for the better part of the last month or two. And now blowing out of that up to the upside, up to $20 and change. The hot option out there today, 57,000 of the Dece 19 calls. So longer term, now in the money calls. What do you think they were trading for, listeners? They closed roughly $1.25 in the money. What do you think a Dece 19 is worth for you? If you said about $4, you are pretty much right on the money. $3.99 for these. Again, 57,000 of these. So an interesting way to potentially get long, a little bit of upside in Mara. It's a hefty outlay, but then again, it's cheaper than buying the stock, obviously, for $20.25. Up to you if you think that's a good do as we keep on rolling to number 6, listeners. It's the fruit company Apple. 650,000 contracts on the tape. Closing today up about $2.50 or about 1%. Closing 247 and 2/3. And the hot option out there, 39,000 of the 250 calls expiring this Friday, listeners. Average price for these, $2.14. And once again, not giving them away. We did get close to it today, $249.69. So they were within spitting distance. Probably explains that price, listeners, as we keep on rolling out to number 5. Another A-tech name for you. It's the Amazonians. Putting up 702,000 contracts on the tape today. The hot option out there, 36,000 of the 220s, which coincidentally enough is pretty much exactly where Amazon closed, right around 220, up about 1.75% on the day. So a good day here for Amazon, listeners. Can we maintain this trajectory, keep going up by the end of the week to keep that value on those 220s? We shall find out as we keep on rolling to yet another A-tech name for number 4. It's AMD, putting up 712,000 contracts today. AMD rallying about $1.50 or about 0.75%, closing 216.42 on the day. The hot option out there, 30,000 of the 235 calls. Average price for these, $1.84, so 235. That's a pretty wild strike. You did get higher intraday, up to about 224.19, so that's probably when the lion's share of these went up, or at least you hope so, because if you're paying $1.84 for these, with the stock around 216 with only the rest of the week left to go, that's pretty lofty for the upside. I probably would say sold to you on those. Number 3, listeners, it's good old Intel. Nearly 750,000 contracts today. Intel popping about 90 cents or about 2.5%, closing right around 37.25. The hot option out there, and a pretty hot day in Intel. 32,000 of the OC40s. Once again, the OC40 calls lighting up the tape out there. Hope springs eternal. Average price for these, 32 cents. Now, worth noting, there is already size open interest on this strike, so someone could be deciding discretion is the better part of valor, getting the heck out of Dodge on these for 32 cents. Either way, we'll keep an eye on the 40 strike in Intel. We got up to about 37.5 today, so still a little ways to go to threaten the 40 strike. As we keep on rolling, listeners, to number 2, it's our old pal Tesla, putting up nearly 1.7 million contracts out there. Tesla popping hard today, nearly 22.5 handles, about 5.5%, closing 435.90. So once again, blowing through 420, blowing through the 430 strike, and threatening the 440 strike intraday, getting up to nearly 437 out there today. So a hot day back for Tesla fans out there. And the hot option on a pretty hot day, 65,000 of the 430 calls. Average price for these, $9.41. Now, if you rode these through the close, they sound kind of rich, but then again, these calls did go out nearly $6 in the money. So perhaps that makes those a little bit more palatable for you, listeners, as we keep on rolling to the number 1, the big dog on the list today, Nvidia. Not exactly a banger in Nvidia today, only 1.95 million contracts. So a bit of a light volume day for them. Nvidia closing today up nearly 3%, about 5.25, closing 188 1/3. Again, trying to get back to those all-time highs that set just last week out there in Nvidia. And the hot option out there, 139,000 of the 190s. We did kiss 190 intraday, 190.11 to be precise. So those were ever so briefly in the money. Average price for those about $2.50. So Nvidia needs to keep trudging north this week for those 190s to pay off. And that's going to do it for your hot options report for a interesting Monday, October 13th. See you back here tomorrow for the European market brief in the morning, followed after the closing bell by another episode of the Hot Options Report. Stay safe out there, everybody.
Check out public.com/optionsbrief and discover the most cost-effective way to trade options. Paid for by Public Investing. Full disclosures in podcast description.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.